All right, real quick review. We have the grip, our forefinger or our two finger right there in the side, air pocket in there. Our wrist snap happens within that box right in here. We've got a quick flipping of the wrist with a slight upward movement or a pull off of the thumb right in there to flip the wrist right through there. We are staying once again on our power line. Nothing has changed. We are not trying to at this point throw an inside or an outside drop. We're throwing right on our power line. Our biggest difference in our stride is it is the exact opposite as the rise ball. It is shortened, or our angle of our chest is over the top of our toes. And once again, we're on top of that ball here, not over it, not back on it, but we're on top of that ball through this body angle of this part of the body being fused together. I'm not pushing back, it's fused together, and I'm angled on top of that ball. Now let's put that whole motion right back together. I get my grip, I get myself comfortable, I'm on my power line. As I go through my motion, I come out and my stride is shorter. I'm pushing on top of the ball and I'm a flipping of the wrist right through here with my body angle fused together here, and I'm coming right straight through at you. Notice my arm is not out to the side. It's right nice and easy right through my delivery point in here, and I'm not hitting my body. It's just releasing right through my release point with a quick wrist snap and angled on top of that ball. Now, what I'd like to move directly into is the over the top or the snap over drop, whichever you talk to or whomever you talk to calls it. There's lots of different names for it. Let's just start right back with the grip. Okay, I used the same grip for this pitch as I did for my peel drop. A lot of times people would say that might have limited my rotation because on the snap over the drop is where the snap, you're actually throwing that hand over, and I might not have technically had a true four seam snapping over. But when I tried, and most people on a different grip for that snap over the drop, put it right in here, so that my fingertips were up there and my thumb was down here on this seam, I never really felt that comfortable with that pitch, and mostly because it was different. The other thing that we've never even covered in all this video information that I throw to you at this point in time is the simpler that you can keep your grips and the more alike you can keep them to maximize your rotation and your movement, the easier it is when you're standing out on the mound and your catcher's calling your pitches for you to get it in here without having to really fuss or see a lot of different pitching movement or arm strains in your arm. Because remember, the more advanced you get, the better coaches and hitters you face. Offensive coaches are standing over on third base or first base and picking up different things. And if you're not comfortable without looking in there to get that grip or do it, it makes it that much harder. So once again, I kept the same grip. My grip really wasn't that different. It's still very important to have that air pocket in there with your thumb or your fingertips on seams. That's the most important part. Now, this is where I'm going to break it down and get pretty intense with the difference of the pitch between the peel and the roll over, the snap over drop. It's the wrist snap. It is the significant difference and pretty much the only difference in these two different drop balls that we're throwing here. The body angle, the stride, everything else is virtually exactly the same on those two pitches, but not with the wrist snap. The wrist snap is where we start to come into the biggest significant differences. Now, what you see on a wrist snap and on the over-the-top grab or snap, if you actually slow the pitch down, is you're going to see me take my wrist and snap over and right around so that it's coming right here. Now, the more advanced you get, the better that you get at this, and the more you do it, more repetitions that you can get, you will start to master where you're snapping right here on the side. Now, when I'm starting with a beginner pitcher or someone who might be struggling with snapping it over, what I talk to them about is when I'm here, I want you to take this thumb and I want you to throw it or snap it to this leg over here, so that when this snap is happening, you're coming here and you're snapping across your body. The biggest thing that you're going to see young pitchers in doing this is they'll snap with the ball still in their hand and then they'll push. That's not what we're trying to accomplish. As I'm snapping, that ball is coming out of my hands here as I finish my snap. My snap does not happen and then the ball release. It's no different than the rise ball, but it's very difficult for young pitchers and very confusing to say snap over the top when we've always talked about taking everything towards your target. Now you're snapping over and actually snapping back to your body. So it's over the top. Once again, I said I have them throw their thumb here. When they start getting comfortable with that and actually seeing some downward movement and get comfortable with that, take that thumb, tell them to snap it between their legs. As they get better at that, tell them to snap it right into this leg and then boom, right to the side of it. So it's a gradual process, but you can tell them ideally what we're striving for is this. But what I see in these pictures is you tell them to do this, and the first thing they do is when they snap, They snap straight down and the ball goes smack down to the ground. Now remember that release box is right in here, and that snap is starting to happen and finish before you get out of that release point. So the single difference is I am not snapping this way now. I am snapping down and I am snapping over right through here, right down and around that leg as quick as possible. My body angle is no different whatsoever. It's exactly the same. I'm on top of the ball and I'm snapping down across or through the ball right there as it goes down and around in there. That's the biggest difference. Stride is the same. Grips can be the same. They can be different. Body angle is the same. The only thing that's different is now the wrist snap. This is a confusing and difficult pitch. If you're going to ask me, like most of you are sitting there wondering which one is the best or which one should be taught first, you know, there's lots of different mixed philosophies or views out there. I'm going to tell you, if you have a young lady that throws the ball rather hard, an over-the-top drop would be the immediate pitch that I would go to, because not only are you going to be able to master or get them to get the ball to break a plane, it's also going to take a little speed off of it. And in a 40 or 43-foot distance from the pitching plate to home plate, if you can get a little bit of speed off of that ball to go from point A to point B, you're going to get more chance for more rotation. And now you're also playing with that other factor that even hitting and pitching coaches agree on, is when are they going to hit the ball, the speed of the ball. And with that peel drop, the reason I converted from a peel to the over the top is I threw hard enough that it didn't necessarily have enough time to really break that downward plane as much as it could when I came over the top. So that's the biggest things. Now what I'd like to point out for that over-the-top drop for you is the biggest or the most common problems that I see with that. When you start talking about over-the-top, obviously the first one that I pointed out is when they snap through here, they're actually releasing backwards, which is going to look like a change. They're not going to be able to cover that distance, and it's going to get real frustrating. Another thing that you see is when girls start to learn how to snap here, they start to get a trunk rotation so that they try to do it with their shoulders and not their wrist snap. That's the biggest problem that you're going to see is I'm coming here. If I'm doing it with my shoulders, I'm doing this, and my hand's actually trailing, and my wrist snap, I'm either ever going to finish it or everything's going to be plugging every right-handed batter in the box, so that you're not going to necessarily get that downward movement. You get trunk rotation. It's really not that much different when you hear hitting coaches talking about a hitter coming here and having trunk rotation before anything else happens, so that the arms are trailing what their upper body is doing. So it's really technically the same thing from here. Another very, very common problem that you'll see with this for young ladies is on that over the top, they tend to come out, or their elbows get out from their body so that they're snapping this way, back, pulling back into their body, as opposed to wrist snap. The wrist snap happens and the shoulder and the body follow afterwards. Those are the biggest problems. Now, once you start talking about a drop ball that hangs, first thing I'm going to tell you to do is go check the stride. Is it too long, or is their body angle not on top of their toes, or is their ball out in front of that release box? Those are the biggest problems. Now let's put that over the top draw all back right together so that you can actually see what it looks like without me releasing the ball. I come in, I'm nice and relaxed as I go through my body motion or my arm motion. I'm getting my angle over my toes. I'm coming right to my snap, and it's smack over the top. Everything's right through there. So that puts that all back together. It gives you two different kinds of drop balls to work with. I tell you to play with both of them, work on both of them, and master both of them, because it gives you more pitches to repertoire, gives you more pitches that break planes, and we've already agreed, even the hitting coaches, that that's what picks up and makes batters failures.